Welcome to Week Gen C.
Focused on young adults in the Northwest
And their careers in a post-pandemic world.
we chat to local experts, finding out what you can do to get yourself in the right headspace to kickstart that career.
Hello Gaz, how are you doing?
I am not so bad. I am awake and I'm good and I'm ready for all of your questions.
Perfect. Okay, so my first question is just to tell me about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so I am the founder of a not-for-profit organization based in Derry, and we work with people who are struggling with substance misuse disorders or addiction. And we work with these guys through physical activity and education. I'm a registered mental health nurse myself, so that is my background. But I'm also 10 years in recovery from addiction myself. So I kind of been down that road and I've gone back and I've retrained. And that's the nutshell version.
Yeah.
I am. So I have just started working now for ARC. And you know what? We're doing some really good things in the city and further afield. So yes, that is me.
Perfect.
A husband and a father.
Okay, and Gaz, you mentioned about your 10 years and your background. So how did you decide, what was the moment where you decided that you needed to make a change, and how did you go about that?
A tough one, because I struggled for a long time. And for me, usually every Monday morning was the change today, and it'll be this day and then next day. But things just got worse for me. I was in treatment, rehabilitation, all that sort of stuff. And it was a real gradual process. And the last time I had a relapse, that was the time that I realized, this is it. Enough's enough. Can't go on like this anymore. Something had to change. And that was it. That was a starting point. And that was almost 10 years ago now. And it's one of those things where, and addiction's a funny thing, because you really do want to change a lot. You just really struggle to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Everybody has to come to that point themselves.
For anyone looking to better themselves, how would they go about improving their mental health?
Mental health it's such a broad spectrum. And there's, especially now with COVID, we're seeing more and more issues with mental health and anxiety and depression and mood disorders and all that sort of stuff. And the bottom line is really about self-awareness. And in terms of your mental health, it's about understanding how you feel and knowing that things aren't right. So if you have that level of awareness, if when things aren't right, you can have the conversations earlier. It's really helpful. Now, that doesn't always happen because it can be a really challenging thing. Yeah. But for me, and in terms of things that are really important for looking after your head, is like, who are the people that are around you? Are you connected to people that are good, that are supportive, and that are encouraging? That's really important. Are you looking after your physical health? So obviously we're very exercise orientated. So are you moving about? Are you getting exercise? Are you looking after your physical health? Okay. And in turn, that will help you with your mental health because of the feel good factor and that sort of stuff as well. And learning to talk, we struggle to be able to talk to people, to actually tell people, I think, how we feel. And there was a lot of stigma and stuff around mental health that stopped people seeking help. And I think we need to be able to just talk if we're having a really tough time, to be able to articulate that to people, to your friends and our family. Yeah. And those are really important things for keeping you well and being involved, having a passion or having an interest. There was a lot of time in my life where, because of the addiction and all that sort of stuff, that was my focus and I didn't really have anything else. Yeah. Whenever you have something else that you're engaged in, whether it's in a community group or sporting activity or arts, whatever that is, again, equally important to be challenging yourself.
And could you tell me about ARC Fitness and how that specifically helps people in Derry?
So what I've done is I have taken what the benefits and the research about addiction and the benefits and the research about physical activity and just pulled it all together. And then with my background of being a mental health nurse, the professional side of that, and my own lived experience. So what we do is whenever people come to us, they come to us when they've got to that point where they've said, you know what, enough's enough. I can't do this anymore and I have to change. So they come to us. We take them through a 6-week program. So that's a physical activity program. There's training involved. There's different types of exercise and activity and mindfulness and yoga and things like that. But we also have an online platform that's an educational piece as well. So for the 6 weeks, there is every single day, there's topics of content that helps people understand behaviors and understands the cycle of change, and living sober, all that sort of stuff. But most importantly, we've brought people into a community who want the same thing. They want to be sober, they want to be better, they want to achieve more in their life. And what happens is whenever you bring people into that environment, the environment actually looks after the people.
Yeah.
You know, so we've seen people come, we've had 50 odd people going through the program now, with another 120 planned to go through over the next 2 years. And what happens is people just stay, form relationships, and they just get better together.
Amazing. That sounds like you've created a really positive place that just continues to grow. That's great. And
the positivity piece is really important. We're very much hope orientated, because a lot of people are kind of, and especially with addiction, because it's complicated and complex and there's so many parts, people get tired and frustrated and, you know, almost write people off. And I think from my experience is there's always hope for change. And if we can articulate that, then it gives people the encouragement and the motivation that they need to get through the really difficult stuff.
Yeah. And where do you want ARC Fitness to be in the future?
Everywhere. Do you know what? So my intrinsically, my goal is to help the community. So that's the people of Derry, London.
Yeah.
But I think what we have created is something really special, and I think it needs to be now further afield. So
it needs to be shared.
That's 100%, you know, and again, shared with other organizations, not just us doing us, like us collaborating with people, us sharing an ethos and us sharing something that we know that works. But because we've now got access to an online academy, that takes the geography out of it a little bit. Mm-hmm. So with some tweaking of the program, it can now be accessible. So it doesn't matter if you maybe live in Belfast or Glasgow or London, you know, you can still have access to the things that we do. But definitely I would like to see this regionally here anyway. I think, you know, that it needs to be in the Western, the Northern, the Southern, all those trusts. And people have been doing it for years. And this is the thing, we've just kind of formalized it and brought it together.
Yeah, given it a name.
And given it, and just, that's it, named it.
Yeah. And why do you think it's important for people to have role models, especially people in Derry, that they can look up to?
Society's really difficult. And there's so much peer pressure to fit in, to do things, to be like the people that are around you. And what happens is if the people that are around you aren't positive, then the chances of you being positive aren't great, you know, because we become products of our environment. So having a role model and having someone that you can relate to, that you can understand, and that you can see the struggle, and you can see how the person has got to where they've got to, is really important, because it ties back in the hope. Because if they can do it, then I can do it. And I think we need more positive role models, not in Derry and further afield, just to show people that, you know,
it's evidence.
Evidence. Loads of people have ideas, right? And they never follow through because maybe it's a confidence thing, or they don't feel that they can. And if you show someone that, like, I didn't know how to run an organization when I started, but I give it a shot and it's working. And that's what we're saying. The possibilities are there. If you're surrounding yourself and listening to the right people, then, you know, that hope for achieving whatever you want is there.
Yeah, and I think someone who's gone through the experience as well and come out the other end and they've bettered themselves, I think that can make people all the more hopeful, you know, so you could be so many people's role model. And why do you think it's important for you to be open about your whole journey and your past? Because I know a lot of people would kind of try to just forget about it.
So there's a few things. So firstly, for me, I found that being transparent about it meant that it was a protection for me, because if people knew, then couldn't hurt me, it's out there and it's fine. And I had broad enough shoulders to be able to carry it, but it took a bit of time. Sometimes people just throw everything out straight away and they leave themselves in a really vulnerable situation. Now, you need to remember, I have almost 10 years of sobriety behind me now to be able to articulate this. It's important to share because we relate to stories and we relate to people. And if we don't talk about our experiences, then how are other people supposed to see that there's nothing wrong with them? They're just going through something. And it ties into stigma and shame. And at the minute, we're running a campaign throughout this entire year, the No Shame campaign. And we have lots of different facets to that. There's lots of different things happening throughout the year. And it's purely because we're trying to change the conversation and the societal kind of image around addiction, to actually have a conversation that, just because you struggle with something like a substance, you're not a bad person. It's not a moral feeling. You just need a bit of help and support. And I think if we can do that and do it successfully, then more and more people will seek help before it gets to that point where it's really, really destructive.
Yeah. And before we wrap up, is there anything that you could say to people who are struggling at the moment and they want to come forward?
The guilt and the shame and the blame is not helpful. I think if you acknowledge that there's a problem, then there's help out there for it. It's reaching out. It's biting the bullet and it's reaching out, because 9 times out of 10, how we perceive we're going to be reacted to is very different. So we usually feel when we reach out, people are going to judge us or give us a hard time. And 99% of the time, that's not the case. Okay. So if you have someone in your life that you trust, reach out to them. If you don't have anybody in your life that you can trust, there's services out there. There's a Here to Help app, which is really, really, really good. You can download it onto your phone and it helps. It's got loads of resources if you're in crisis or you're just looking for help. Having something like that is really helpful. Mm-hmm. But don't sit on it, because sitting on things doesn't make them go away. It just makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah, and you know yourself. Well, thank you so much, Gaz, for chatting to me today. That was all really helpful and interesting information, and it was lovely speaking to you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No problem. See you later.